We've got a huge Inside the NRL coming your way. Joseph Suaalii gets the green light. NRL CEO Abdo joins us live to tell us why. The Match Review Committee makes its first big statement of the season. And after a first-up loss, the Titans are ready to battle the Broncos in Friday's local derby. We crossed to Justin Holbrook for a chat. Yeah, all of that and plenty more coming up right here, including a brand new segment that'll have each and every one of you at home talking after the show. Hello and welcome to Inside the NRL, and welcome to our expert panellists, Michael Chammas, Brent Reed's replacement. He's going by now. Reedy was on fire last week. And 2010 Premiership winner Jamie Soward. Gents, round one footy, one and done for 8 teams. The other 8, well, they have some work to do. But I want to know what left egg on your face after the first 8 games of the season. I'll start things off. At the back end of last year, I thought the Morris brothers could have potentially gone 1 year too long. They looked a little bit slow in the back end, as the whole Roosters outfit did. But they just... egg all over my face.
Well,
they were on fire.
4 tries.
606 metres between them, 4 tries, 10 line breaks. I'm just, boys, you're way too good.
Yeah, I've said it before. Brett Morris, the best finisher that we've seen in the NRL era. My one's the Broncos. Alex Glenn was on the show last week and I tipped them to win Wooden Spoon. The way they played in that first half, boys, I was really impressed. I don't think they will now. I've seen some teams over the weekend that are going to struggle to win early on.
Michael, why have you got egg all over your face?
I've written off Melbourne too many times. Cronk left, I thought they were gone. Billy left, I thought they were gone, and I was convinced they were gone after Cam. And they just keep finding a way to do it. They were the best team on the weekend by a country mile.
What a way to start the end. I think they did it without Harry Grant. So they've got Brandon Smith as a backup.
And Finucane.
All right, they're on fire. Speaking of on fire, Michael Chammas was on fire this afternoon. He revealed the news that Joseph Suaalii has been given the green light to play before his 18th birthday on August 1. Michael, big yarn in the game. How did the Roosters get this exemption across the line?
It's been a few months in the making, Zac. This started well before the Roosters even signed Suaalii. It was actually South Sydney who started the ball rolling when they were trying to get an exemption. They obviously missed out in that situation. The Roosters poached him, but the NRL has gone through a process here with the Roosters to try and find out whether he's A, mentally ready, B, physically ready, and C, able to handle the rigours of everything else that comes around with the hype that he's at the moment, and whether he can handle that going forward. Now, there was psychological evaluation. They did obviously physical testing to make sure that everything was up to scratch, and they met with him as well last week to determine whether he was ready to play NRL. And physically, we've seen on the weekend and in the trial games that there is no doubt Joseph Suaalii is ready to handle playing with the big boys. Now, whether he can handle the pressure that's going to come his way, and there's plenty of pressure on Joseph Suaalii, because the reality is the hype on him has been more than anyone we've seen in a long time. So the NRL today decided we'll give him a shot.
So, Soward, you were out there on the weekend calling that game where he scored 2 tries for North Sydney in the New South Wales Cup. You've said all along he's ready, but they have a star-studded backline. When do you think he'll be unleashed?
I don't think the pressure's on him at all, actually. I think that he's going to come into a backline that's been playing together for a while, has won championships together, and that is a transition that is going to be easier. If he was going to a club that had finished in the bottom 5 last year and had all the hype and was coming through and projected to be their saviour, when he goes into that Roosters squad, if he goes into that Roosters backline, he's expected to do his job and that's it. And he's not going to be judged on anything else. It's not like he is put into a team where they're not going to be competing, they're not a top 4 side, and he's going to be hailed as the saviour.
Oh, I disagree, Sal. It's not even football. There's different types of pressure on blokes. I get what you're saying, you're right, he's not under pressure to win games and win them a competition. But every single person is going to watch his first game thinking, is this kid as good as everyone's made out to be? Is he good enough? Can he handle it? Like, there's a pressure with that doesn't matter how he performs. It's going to be there all year. Every time someone watches the Roosters, they're going to watch Joseph Suaalii.
All right. He's unlikely to be unleashed this weekend against the West Tigers on Sunday, Arvo. But how's this? Round 3, the Roosters against the Rabbitohs, Friday night. This would be the ultimate chapter in the Book of Feuds, wouldn't it, if he's unleashed in round 3?
It would. I saw, as I called the game on the weekend, physically he's ready. He's still learning the game, though. He and Sam Walker are very, very young, very talented, but they're still learning the game and what the next step is going to look like for them. He will not play until Origin.
Okay.
Unless there's an injury.
Round 3, though, it would be one hell of a game of footy and one hell of a storyline if they unleashed him against the Rabbitohs.
Russell Crowe's got more of a chance of playing than Suaalii.
The Book of Feuds. Rusty would be up in the stand doing these ones potentially. But we have the thumbs up here on Inside the NRL because we are joined by the boss of the game, NRL Chief Executive Officer Andrew Abdo. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us on what is an historic day, I guess, for the game. I want to know how the game came to the decision of allowing a 17-year-old an exemption to play before he's 18.
Yeah, I was just listening to you guys debate that. So clearly it's big news. It's exciting news for the game. Joseph is an exciting athlete, and what the Commission said right from the start is that they will look at an exemption for the age at which a player can have their contract registered in the NRL if there are exceptional circumstances. And we've spent the last couple of weeks working with the club to understand how those risks can be mitigated and to make sure that this is an exemption which, to be honest, I think would be very rare. It's important to note that, he's turning 18 on the 1st of August, and in our discussions with the Roosters, certainly their plan is to transition him to playing in the NRL over a number of weeks. And so, who knows, he may actually only take the field pretty close to his actual 18th birthday.
Andrew, I know how much you love social media all over, and a lot of the talk after the Suaalii announcement is fans up in arms that the Roosters have got special privileges here, they've been looked after. Now, obviously that's not the case because the NRL said it would consider this well before the Roosters even signed him. Now, did that play in your mind, though, that a lot of the talk around favouritism for the Roosters, was that a factor at all, and trying to allay concerns from fans that they were getting looked after?
Yeah, well, let me put everyone's mind at rest. Like, when you think about trying to run one of the most exciting, one of the most even competitions in the world, there's no fear favour for anyone, for players or for clubs. You've got to do what's in the best interests of the game long term. And the Commission take that obviously very, very seriously. And this was considered on the merits of the facts. And there was a significant amount of independent analysis and data and engagement that took place. And that would take place regardless of who, in this particular case, Joseph Suaalii was attempting to register a contract with. And each case will be evaluated on their merits going forwards too.
Andrew, what a way to kick off the season. The Rabbitohs against the Storm. A lot of people are saying it could be a grand final preview, but the ratings, the fans absolutely loved it. The highest rating round 1 match on Fox Sports. Their 3rd highest ever in the history since they've been covering rugby league. That must really, really please you.
Of course. Well, I mean, I'm excited and pleased that the football is up and running, and the weekend comes early now on Thursday each week. But what a great way to start our 2021 Telstra Premiership. That game was certainly great entertainment, and right from the kickoff. And we saw a number of exciting games across the weekend. And you're right, the fans have responded. We've had record ratings, not just across that particular opening game, but across the whole weekend. We're up on all platforms, on all of our partners' channels, and obviously a massive increase in the number of fans that are streaming games and enjoying them online as well.
Andrew, a lot of rule changes in the off-season. Are you happy with how they were projected in round 1?
Yeah, Jamie, I mean, I think it's too early to assess the impact of the rule changes on the actual entertainment product. And we monitor lots of statistics and data after each and every game, but you need to look at it over a period of time. We saw, actually, ironically, a slight decrease in ball in play, but a decrease in elapsed time. So there was less dead time for fans. But the numbers weren't materially different from last season or the season before, for that matter. But the games were exciting. There were less penalties, there were more line breaks, and tries were very similar. So, I mean, rugby league is such an exciting game, and I'm really looking forward to round 2 now and seeing what unfolds as we see more games and more clubs showing early form.
As the game gets faster, we fast forward 6 weeks' time. What is the NRL prepared to do if coaches and players give the feedback that the game is too fast, and to make those changes? Do we go back a little bit, or do we just keep pushing on?
No, I mean, I think you've always got to get the balance. When you think about a sports entertainment product, and when you think about a great experience for fans, you have to get the balance right between attack and defence. You have to get the balance right between maintaining possession and possession turning over, and you have to get the balance right between speed and fatigue, and make sure that you are encompassing all elements of the game. So, of course, we'll continually look at how the rules are being applied and adhered to by the teams, and what might need to be tweaked to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. And again, these are things that we take very seriously, because ultimately this is about making sure that we have a great experience for our fans.
Andrew, there'll be a lot of talk this week. Matt Burton, Canterbury versus Penrith. Where are we at with trade windows? Because it seems a little bit unfair that Penrith and Matt Burton are put in a situation where they're under pressure to move players on or to let go of players. Is there any update on where we're at with transfer windows?
Yeah, the review is underway. We have a working group. We're talking about existing commercial contracts, so we can't just not respect those. So we have a collective bargaining agreement with the players. So we're working with the RLPA on that. We are also working with the clubs and understanding their perspective. So the players' perspective, the club's perspective, and of course the fans' perspective. And Michael, the review is well underway. It's something that we hope to conclude in the middle of the season and then take something to the Commission for consideration. But certainly we understand the importance and the urgency of getting the balance right between players honouring the contracts, but equally understanding what is a fair and appropriate way to facilitate players moving clubs at the right time.
Andrew, you were on hand to watch the Warriors beat the Titans on the weekend. They're still pushing hard to get 20 home games in season 2022. Cameron George, he's still hopeful. Are you happy, or have you started any dialogue with the Warriors about that?
It wouldn't be Cameron not to ask for that. Just to manage everyone's expectations, that's not necessarily something that we think is going to be on the agenda for next season. However, let me start by first acknowledging how terrific it is to have the Warriors again sacrificing time away from New Zealand and having their families here in Australia for the foreseeable future, playing out of the Central Coast. To allow our competition to keep running. What they did last year was phenomenal, and what they've agreed to do this year again is we're all the beneficiaries of that. And the spirit in which they are, and they've adapted to their new environment, has been terrific too. And the fact that they got off to a win at their home away from home is also a credit to them. But at this stage, there's no plans for us to have a home and away season in New Zealand. We have a number of considerations there. So that's not something that we could just all of a sudden do, although I appreciate the sentiment. And certainly once we see the vaccines roll out, we see international borders open up, the ability for us to take more games to New Zealand and create double headers and create great content in New Zealand for our rugby league fans over there is absolutely on the agenda.
Andrew, as always, thank you so much for your time on Inside the NRL. A ratings winner in round one of the NRL. No doubt today's show will be a ratings winner with the boss on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Andrew Abdo there. In other news, Cronulla's Jesse Ramien could miss up to 4 weeks for his high shot on Matt Duffy. Jamie, is it a stance that we can see moving forward from the match review committee that anything of this nature, they'll come down hard?
Yeah, well, I was there at the game on the sideline, and it was a high shot that you didn't really see until you saw it on the replay. So I think the NRL just want to stamp this out nice and early. You can see the swinging arm there from Jesse Ramien, collects Duffy across the jaw. So 4 weeks is going to put people on notice now that that's going to be a lengthy suspension for one of their strike players.
So he'll miss 3 weeks with an early plea. Michael, you happy with that stance?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I just feel there was an opportunity there to look. He was in that position. He could have tackle him anywhere else. It was reckless.
Okay, all right, I mentioned off the top of the show, brand new segment. It's called NRL Stock Market. This is the first edition, and no doubt it's going to go very smoothly. So I'm going to ask you guys whether you're going to buy, sell or hold on certain players. What a way to start Anthony Milford. On fire in the first half, fell away in the second half.
Buying, decision-making in the second half for me, cost me pushing all my chips in and buying it all. But I liked what I saw from Anthony Milford. It was the first time I felt like I've seen him excited to play. And the old Friday night Broncos, the house is rocking. So I was really pleased for Anthony to be playing like that. But, yeah, I'm buying.
Chammas, David Fifita.
I'm going to hold Dave Fifita. Sit
on the fence?
Yeah, I'm going to sit on the fence. I still think Tino's going to be far more valuable to the Titans than David Fifita, but time will tell. We'll hold, see what happens.
Benji Marshall, the Rabbitohs roaming middle half.
It's going to be crucial of when he injects himself into the game or when Wayne puts him on, but I thought he made a difference on the weekend.
Okay, Chammas, Brandon Smith as the Storm's hooker. That's the key, as their number 9.
I'm going to sell.
Give him to me.
For now, for 4 weeks, yes, but as soon as Harry Grant comes back, I'm sorry.
I'll take him.
Okay, he played in the New South Wales Cup for Newtown over the weekend. Andrew Fifita, you buying, selling, holding?
I'm going to hold. I think that I watched him play. His attitude was great, and he's going to find it hard to get in that 17, but I'll hold at the moment because there might be a chance for him.
Michael, he was good in a losing side. Kyle Flanagan.
Yeah, buy. I'm buying him knowing that in 6 months, in 12 months when Matt Burton's there, you're going to reap the benefits.
Okay, and there was plenty of talk about Joseph Suaalii, but what about Sam Walker? You called the North Sydney Bears game. Buying, selling or holding?
The house on it. This kid, give it to me.
So no pressure on Joseph Suaalii, but you've just put immense pressure on Sam Walker.
He is class. 3 try assists and just a ball player. Still needs to fill out a little bit, but yeah, he's a good one. I think he's better than Suaalii.
Best young Roosters half since, what year did you play, Joseph?
Oh, please.
Wow, better than Suaalii. Big call. We'll have to wait and see. But now it's time for this week's edition of the Casualty Award, brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. And we just had our own casualty here because I nearly didn't get that out. All right, let's look at the big news surrounding the players injured in round 1. Matt Lodge is facing 2 to 3 weeks out with a hamstring injury. Xavier Coates and John Asiata could play this week, as could Tom Burgess. Luckily, they're not as bad as first feared. We've got Jake Friend and Adam Kieran facing some time on the sidelines. Jake Friend, of course, suffering a head knock against Manly. Adam Kieran, a big blow with 6 to 8 weeks on the sideline. Bradman Best and Kurt Mann for the Newcastle Knights. They have had scans and we're not sure yet how long they'll be out. Look at this. Fresh news just in, guys. Ewan Aitken will miss 8 to 10 weeks. Cody Ramsey is having scans this afternoon. Good news for Manly. He'll play despite having a cork thigh suffer against the Roosters. So the big breaking news, Ewan Aitken, a signing for the Warriors, 8 to 10 weeks on the sideline, so he's not back until mid-year.
No, and he played quite well on the weekend. He was a recruit for Nathan Brown, head of that squad, and when they win on the weekend, you want to try and keep that 17 together. You think about how Penrith were last year, no injuries, you get momentum, you get rhythm. I think it's a huge loss.
What about the Roosters? Obviously, if Jake Friend and Boyd Cordner are out, their co-captains are out for some time. Is it time to give James Tedesco the captaincy full-time? It's a big question, but it allows those players, do you think, just to focus on themselves and their fitness?
Yeah, the Roosters need to phase into a new leadership model because there's every chance Boyd Cordner doesn't come back, and there's now every chance that Jake Friend may have played his last game in the NRL. So if you're Trent Robinson, you need to blood new leaders there. Now, they've got natural leaders in Luke Keary and Tedesco, but captaining the side and knowing what to do, when to do it, is a different story. So it'd be good to see James Tedesco get a bit more of a run on that.
Would it have any impact on Teddy in his game?
Nah. What did he score? 3 tries on the weekend?
He did score 3 tries on the weekend.
I think he'll be okay.
But he really doesn't have that much leadership experience.
Well, he's the captain, but the on-field captain would be Keary. He's the one getting him in position. I think Jake Friend's a huge loss for them. He's showed his value. They've rushed him into that grand final a couple of years ago. They really miss his leadership and how he tidies up the ruck. So, whoever comes in, I think it's Lussick looked like he's going to come in, potentially Sam Walker. Yeah,
I think Lussick will get the nod there at 14, but the other thing is you consider they've also lost Cooper in that period. In 12 months, there's 3 senior guys gone, so a rebuilding phase for the Roosters. All right, so of course last week we introduced the NRL's new money or prize game that's going on. NRL Pick'em Weekly Fall. Of course, you have a chance to win $100,000 again this week. It's the same deal. Pick your 4 winners and the correct margin, and you can take home a massive $100,000 or a share in it. Round 1 saw 5 winners take home $20,000 large each. The 4 matches there on your screen you can see. Titans and Broncos Friday night. The Saturday doubleheader, Sea Eagles and Rabbitohs into Cowboys and Dragons. And on Sunday, the West Tigers and Roosters at Campbelltown. One of those matches, of course, we all can't wait for is the Titans against the Broncos. The Titans, they need a win after their first up loss against the Warriors. We're lucky enough to be joined by their coach, the Gold Coast coach, right now, Justin Holbrook. Justin, thanks for joining us on Inside the NRL. Not the way you wanted to start your season, but now you've reviewed it today. What was the most disappointing aspect of that loss?
Oh, I guess obviously the result. I think after everyone's in the same boat, you have a real good pre-season. You want to start with a win in round one, and we weren't good enough. I've got to give the Warriors a lot of credit. They played a very simple game and just ran harder. I guess scored a couple of those tries we're looking at, a couple of little barge overs on the try line that we couldn't stop. So disappointing, and we're obviously got to get better this week.
Justin, the club's obviously recruited very well in the off-season. However, a lot was made about the 600,000 or 700,000, whatever it is you have in the cap left there. It was potentially left aside for Cameron Smith. Now that he's retired, where do you go? Do you build that roster now? Can you sign someone? Are you looking at anyone?
We're not looking at anyone in particular, and we honestly didn't think Cameron would play on, if I'm honest with you. So I don't know. We've got the luxury of having some money left, but I'm not sure. We haven't got any plans on that. I think, as we know, it's a long year, so it's nice to have a spot up our sleeve if we need it, and there's no need to rush because I don't feel that we're short in any position. So it's a good position for us to be in.
Justin, one of the most hyped teams in recent history in terms of your recruitment over the off-season. My question's about your halves. You've got David Fifita planted on an edge. What's your message and communication to Ash Taylor, Jamal Fogarty about when to get them the ball, how to get them the ball and get the best out of those guys so they're not just throwing in the ball and hoping to run over their opponent?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Soward, because, you've sort of asked a question with the answer. That's what we've got to get right. We've got to get the mix of when to get him the ball and when not to. And I guess the more time we're going to play together, the more chance we've got to get that right. Obviously, we've only played the one game, and Dave didn't have the ideal week preparation, to be honest. He sort of spent a few days in hospital on a drip with an infection, so that didn't help our cause, him not training during the week. But in saying that, as you said, he's an absolute strike player, and we've got to make sure that we can, as halves, with Ash in particular playing on his edge, that he can get him some one-on-one time against other halfbacks, rather than, as you mentioned, giving him the ball too often and two or three blokes coming in and manhandle him or getting hold of him. So we've got to make sure we use him smart, and we've got to fast track that so we do it in a good manner, starting this week.
Justin, just on David Fifita, he'll be the most talked about man in Queensland this week. How do you handle the hype and making sure that he comes to the game not going out there overplaying his hand?
Yeah, well, I think what helps is bit similar to Sowie's question. He'll get dictated by our halves when he can and can't get the ball. So I think they've got a bit to do with it. From my point of view, I'd love him to constantly want the ball, and then it's up to our halves to decide when to give it to him. But we all know what a strike player he is and how good a player he's going to be for us. But for me, it's just, especially being an edge back row, he's just got to do his job and know his role for the 80 minutes. And he's a good enough player that, he'll create things. He just, we just got to make sure we give it to him in the right opportunity.
Justin, little brother versus big brother, Friday night, the local derby. Is this your chance to show that you are genuinely the best team in Queensland this year?
Oh, well, we won't know that till the great question. We won't know that till the end of the year, but it's going to be great to play at home against our biggest rivals. I think it'd be terrific to get our home game. We obviously played away on the weekend, so to play at home against the Bronx in front of hopefully a near capacity full house and to play well. That's when we weren't really happy how we played on the weekend, so we want to give ourselves our best chance playing well and hopefully come up with a win. Which is what we want.
Justin, as always, thank you so much for joining us on Inside the NRL. Good luck on Friday night. I hope it's an absolute cracker, and I echo your sentiments to all Titans fans. Get out there and support your team.
That'll be great. Thanks for having me.
All right, and of course, you can get your tickets at nrl.com/tickets. All right, it's time for Hit or Miss. All right, he's on the back page of the Sydney Daily Telegraph today. Manly must sort out Des Hasler's future this week before it threatens to derail their season. Sowie.
Miss, I think you've got to wait and see. They don't want to get tied into a long-term solution if the problem's going to be ongoing. They were not good on the weekend, the Manly Seagulls, and Dylan Walker spoke about attitude and stuff like that. I don't know if you can re-sign the coach if one of your leading players is coming out saying that the attitude wasn't great. So, yeah, miss for me.
Yeah, it's a miss for me. I think if the Seagulls feel like they need to rush into it, they should ring Ray Lancastle and Ray Dibb and ask them about rushing into signing Des Hasler. It didn't work out for Canterbury. They signed him for a longer-term deal and they lived to regret it. It was the end of both their tenures. So, miss for me. It doesn't mean he's not going to be the coach. I just don't see the rush. Just wait and see how it pans out.
All right. Todd Payten was criticised for his public undressing of Jason Taumalolo after their loss against the Panthers. Here's what he had to say after their loss.
I've said it several times, Jace is contracted here for 7 years. If we cook him 65 to 75 minutes a game, in 3 to 4 years, mate, what value are we going to get out of him?
So Jason Taumalolo ran for just 55 metres in his 51 minutes on field. So with that in mind, Todd Payten must stick to his guns with his stance on Jason Taumalolo and his minutes.
Hit. But hit and miss. I know. It's a hit.
No.
He must stick to it because he said it, right? He'll look a fool if he doesn't stick to it. I just don't know if it's the right thing to do. Like, if he comes out now and says, you know what, Jace, you go play 80 minutes, what does that say about his coaching ability and his strength at that club?
I'm not asking, if you're the coach, if you're Todd Payten, do you stick to your guns with your stance?
He made his bed, he has to lay in it.
So it's a hit?
It's a hit.
Okay, Soward, please.
Hit for me because he plays the Dragons this week. Yeah, I think it's going to be hard, but on the weekend, the Cowboys as a team were great, and Jason was probably a product of that, so it'll be hard, but the coach is going to have to change things. If it's 10-all and you have to push him an extra 10 minutes, he's going to have to, but he wasn't at his best on the weekend.
All right, so to Todd Payten's defence, I sat down with him in the pre-season. He said there will be some games throughout the year that he will have to leave him out there for an extra 5 or 10, but he's not going to do it every week.
No.
He's not going to play.
Well, he's the coach. He at the end of the day, the buck stops with him. If they're losing games and he's not playing Jason Taumalolo minutes, that comes down to Todd Payten.
I need to ask you one question, Soward. So when he was the criticism of Taumalolo is that sometimes in defence he can get a little bit lazy when he was playing big minutes. But Todd Payten said the same thing after the weekend, that there was a try there where it was Jason Taumalolo who didn't work at marker. Well, if he's playing 55 minutes and he's still doing that, is it a fitness thing or is it an attitude thing?
No idea. You have to ask Jason Taumalolo. I think after that public spray, it might be on this week.
I reckon Jason Taumalolo will be on against your Dragons, unfortunately, for your sake. All right, the Bulldogs are so desperate to get Matt Burton to the club immediately. They're willing to sign him and lend him back to the Panthers if they have an injury to their halves. This news in Michael Chammas' column in the Sydney Morning Herald. So, Penrith should let Matt Burton go to Canterbury now, Michael.
Miss. What if he gets injured playing for Canterbury? I think they'd much rather him get injured playing New South Wales Cup than letting him go on the proviso he comes back. Mate, and honestly, if Matt Burton, we get to round 25 and Nathan Cleary goes down, I'm pretty sure Matt Burton's going to be happy playing for a potential premiership than trying to maybe not avoid the spoon, but he's not going to play finals football at Canterbury this year. I think sit down, wait for your chance, it might happen.
He's whacked the Bulldogs on the way through.
Yeah, hit for me. Yeah, let's get him across there. Let him play NRL, and you can have some stipulations. He can go back just before the deadline, whatever you like. But he's going to get more experience playing NRL than he is New South Wales Cup. He was good on the weekend, but I just think what stops this is allowing players to sign a year out.
Correct.
You come up with that deadline. Yes, the managers can talk behind the scene. That's what they're paid to do. But you make a deadline of when they can actually start talking and when they can sign, because this fiasco now is just dragging on.
That's another whole can of worms. Speaking of, it's time to move on to Champ and Chump. And it's over to you, Soward.
Yeah, a couple of champs this week. I was out there at Penrith on Saturday night, and I love the fact that we're getting to know players behind the scenes and into their lives. But these two, Jerome Luai and Brian Tuttle, straight after the game, the new Backstreet Boys of the NRL.
Everybody, yeah, rock your body, yeah. Sorry me.
They love it. The boys love it.
That is amazing. That is just two kids loving playing footy and pretty good at doing it as well.
On the flip side, who's your chump?
Those tossers up there in Queensland that got in front of Corey Parker during his live cross. Corey had a job to do, and this is what happened when he tried to do it.
You can see that the normal crowd's turned up, so everything's going well here, Jess. Things are starting to... I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, for the...
I feel sorry for Corey there because I've been in that situation. And you
That's
genuinely
just
need
stupid,
security
mate.
there.
That's just stupid. It's just, you see a camera, you feel like you have to run in front of it. They would hate it if you do it their job. I'm off it.
All right, Michael, your turn next week for your champ and chump. Of course, tomorrow afternoon, NRL Teams is back. Neve Owens, Brett Camorley and Robbie Farah will take you through all of the latest NRL team news. That's from 3:55pm before the teams drop at 4. They'll have them as they drop. Of course, 100% Footy returns tonight on Channel 9. Their special guest, Broncos coach Kevy Walters, ahead of their local derby with the Gold Coast Titans. That's from 10pm Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And of course, Wednesday night, Matty Johns sits down with the boss of the game, face-to-face with Matty Johns. Plenty of promos on Fox League this week. That's from 7:30pm Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Gents, before we go quickly, your unmissable match in round 2.
Yeah, it's obviously Thursday night, Storm v Eels, but I'm going to go a little bit different. I want to see the Raiders v the Sharks. Ricky Stewart against his old team. It's always a good game.
I'm looking forward to Tigers Roosters and how the Tigers bounce back and what the young Roosters can do.
Okay.
All right, mine's Panthers Bulldogs. Cleary versus Barrett. He's former.
Cleary versus Burton.
Well, no, that's all we have time for on today's show. We're going to leave you with a little bit of a snippet, though, of our Rookie Reflections series brought to you by Ampol. We've done it for a third year. We've got the likes of Harry Grant, Stephen Crichton, Toby Rudolph, Charlie Stain. So here's a snippet of Stephen Crichton's Rookie Reflection.
Hi, I'm Stephen Crichton, and this is my Rookie Reflection.
Crichton is there! Crichton has got the run in and he's got the try. Crichton strolls over.
I debuted against the Sharks, and there was 3 of us debuting all at once.
And all eyes are on the new boys. Gee, what a fascinating throw at the stumps, handing debuts to 3 teenagers tonight.
Ivan just giving me my debut inside the kitchen. Like out of nowhere, he just said, just be ready, you're playing this week. I didn't even know what to say, and I was just like, oh yeah, and I just thought he was joking around. Oh yeah, we didn't address it to the media that whole week until like 2 minutes before we kicked off.
And they have a real examination tonight. That ball hangs up in the breeze.
I was so nervous. I knew that I did the work throughout the week, and I was confident that all I had to do was my job.
Oh, and what a take from young Stephen Crichton. That's a great take by the young man on debut.
I was beyond happy just running out, and my family were right next to the tunnel when I was running out. I was always telling them when I was younger I wanted to play footy, but I didn't think I could reach it until under 20s. Took footy serious and ended up getting my debut.